Hi everybody, welcome back. This is Mrs. Lemert for your guidance meeting today. And I just want to continue today with our lessons through the MindUP curriculum. As you can see behind me, there's our Getting to Know and Love Your Brain poster. Okay, last week we were able to identify a few different parts of our brain, and that helped us to understand a little bit more about why we make some of the decisions that we make. So last week we learned that our brains can produce well thought out reaction by way of our prefrontal cortex. If you remember, our prefrontal cortex is right here behind our forehead. And that's where all of our reasoning and thinking takes place, okay? Or a thoughtless reaction can be given when one goes just through the amygdala, which is right behind your ears, both inside their little almond-shaped part of our brain, okay? And that is where all the emotion is kept. And if you remember, that kind of acts as our security guard. If we feel like we're in danger or that we're being threatened in any way, our amygdala kind of takes over, okay? So, for instance, if all of a sudden out of the corner of your eye, your peripheral vision, you see a ball coming your way, what are you going to do? Are you going to freeze and just let it hit you in the head? Or are you going to duck? Are you going to move so that it doesn't hit you? Or are you going to throw your arm up and hit it out of your way? Okay, that would be your amygdala's fight, flight, or freeze mode. So those are some things to consider when we're making our decisions, okay, from last week. This week, we're working on mindful awareness. Some of you may be wondering, okay, what is mindful awareness? And basically, it's the here and now, okay? Whether or not we're present at this time, understanding what's going on within us, inside, and around us. And the environment that's around us, the people that are around us, and what's going on at that time. Okay? There's also a second piece to mindful awareness, and that is non-judgmental. So we call that non-judgmental when, I'm sure you've heard the saying before, don't judge a book by its cover. That's kind of what we're saying here with being non-judgmental. Okay? So there's two components. So how does this mindful awareness actually link to the brain? Because we are learning about the brain and how our reactions and thoughts are decided upon, okay? So the amygdala determines our emotional responses by classifying incoming sights, smells, touches, all those senses that we may have, okay? Movement as either threatening or pleasurable. So our amygdala is making that decision for us. That security guard, okay? And then if we're in that calm state of mind, it goes right up to that prefrontal cortex instead of being blocked and giving us that fight, flight, or freeze mode. The brain needs time to process, okay? So I want to explain to you that when you hear something, you see something, you taste something, you smell something, or feel, before responding produces mindful thinking. For example, we need to give our brains time. So if we're taking in a feeling, okay, like I just put my hand on the hot stove, I've got to take that feeling in. My brain has to take a piece of it, and then I know to pull it off. So it takes just a second for the brain to catch up. Sometimes you need to give your brain a little bit more time. And we've probably heard our teachers say, if we're really angry or upset, count it out. Count to 10. Count backwards from 10. Okay? Any of those techniques, if you're counting backwards from 10, your amygdala is very, very active, okay? Your security guard is acting up. You cannot get through to it. Versus a 1, your amygdala is calm. Even though you don't like what's going on, you can make a decision so that that travels up to your prefrontal cortex. All right? Counting allows the brain time to play catch up and think more clearly, which is a mindful thought. All right? So today I want you to be able to define and describe the difference between mindful and unmindful thoughts and actions. Okay? I want you to start thinking, and I think I'm going to post this on our grade 4 Canvas page, but I want you to start thinking, I think before I speak or act. I think before I speak or act. I pay attention to things around me. That would be mindful. I pay attention to things around me. I focus when I listen. I really hear what that person is saying. Okay? And then I always do my best in the moment. Those are 4 phrases of self-talk that I want you to get into the habit of using. And like I said, I think I'm going to post those on our Canvas page as well so that you can start utilizing those. Maybe put it on Post-it notes. Stick it around the house, on the mirrors, wherever you need to, so that you get used to saying those phrases. All right? We have a warm-up that we're going to do during our Google Meet for your lesson. But I want you to know that focusing our attention on what's happening here and now is part of being mindful, paying close attention. You 5th graders, we've learned from our Step Up curriculum what paying attention is all about. That we sit up, our feet are flat on the floor. You're not laying down somewhere for this lesson, but we're sitting up at a desk or a table for this lesson, okay? Paying attention. The second part that I mentioned was being non-judgmental, okay? So let's explore that a little bit. Non-judgmental is not forming an opinion too quickly, okay? Again, don't judge a book by its cover. Get to know that person. Get to know that setting before you make a choice. So mindful behavior and its opposite, unmindful behavior. Let's consider a couple of examples. Here's one. A mindful approach to making friends would be getting to know someone before deciding whether or not to be friends. Whereas the opposite, an unmindful approach would be deciding not to be friends, maybe because you don't like their clothes they're wearing today. Okay? So mindful, let's hold off, let's get to know this person before we say we're going to be friends. Unmindful, I don't like that person. I don't like their clothes. I don't like the look on their face. I don't like that they have blonde hair. Those would be unmindful things. Okay? So when you have those types of approaches, if you think mindful and unmindful, how are they going to make you feel? When you're thinking or expressing those ideas, thoughts, behaviors, your mindful acts are going to be regarded much higher and much more respectful than these unmindful acts where you're just judging people, you're denying things, you're rejecting things immediately. Okay. So I want you to think of a time that you really thought through a decision and made a mindful choice. A time that you really thought through something. Maybe you did a cons list and a pros list. Or pros and cons list. Things that are good, things that are bad before making a decision. But I want you to think about something that really took a lot of thought for you before making that decision. All of us are unmindful at times. It's human nature, okay? But through practice, we can really become that mindful person. We can more often make mindful choices that will help ourselves and the people around us. So we need to be aware. So I want to encourage you to evaluate those actions, those memories that I said for you. Were they mindful? Were they unmindful? You might have a couple of different ideas in your head, okay? Unmindful does not mean that we are bad people, but it probably means that our amygdala is more in charge than our prefrontal cortex, okay? Unmindful acts and thoughts does not mean that we're bad people. It just means that our amygdala is in charge or in more control than what our prefrontal cortex is. And that will change with maturity. That will change with practice. So those are things that I want you to work on, okay, to make yourselves and people around you safer, healthier, and happier. So I have an activity for you today, and I want you to do this activity. It's a Google form, and it's just determining if each situation is mindful act or an unmindful act. Okay, so you'll see that link just below this video. And then, as a bonus, if you have time and if you have interest, a really good story is the 3 questions. And I've put that link down there as well. The 3 questions book is one that I find kind of intriguing, and it's asking the important questions. And you can determine if the little guy is mindful or unmindful in his decision making. Okay? So have a great week. Do the Google form for me and submit that. Once you hit submit, it'll just automatically come to my Google Drive. And then the bonus is the story if you have time and interest in staying and watching that. Okay? Have a great week. I look forward to seeing you on our Google Meet.